back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today, Friday, the 27th of October. Today's video primarily first preview of the Celtic versus Hibs match tomorrow, Saturday, with a couple of other little bits of Celtic related news. Planning currently to do early Saturday morning, second Hibs Celtic preview, just to catch up with any news regarding rumours of Celtic starting lineup for Saturday, and also any further updates on the injury situation regarding Hatate and other players who are recovering from injury or are still currently out injured. Before we crack on, please, if you could, just click the subscribe button if you haven't clicked subscribe already. Also, like button as well. And as I've said before, feel free to pass on the details of this channel to other Celtic fans, friends, colleagues, etc. To try and spread these videos to a bigger audience, as the YouTube analytics currently don't seem to be spreading these videos quite as far as they were a few weeks ago. Also, a Celtic related trivia question in the community section, and also a little poll in the community section as well, with regards to one of the selection conundrums facing Brendan Rodgers at the moment. And also, as always, feel free to pop any comments into the comment section to go with this video, and I'll address those in tomorrow's morning video or reply within the channel comment section. So, Celtic playing Hibs tomorrow, 3 o'clock kickoff. Important to remember that the match isn't available on television in any way in Scotland live. I think there are one or two ways of still watching the game live, not relying on Scottish or British television. And so for most of us, it's going to be following the game online and updates through the various different TV channels and radio, etc. However, Celtic go into the game against Hibs full of confidence. We were on a really good run within the league and come off of a good result against Atletico Madrid, where we drew 2-2 and had chances to win the game potentially. Although for me, I was rather disappointed we didn't go for it in the last 15 minutes of the game. I thought when they went down to 10 men, Atletico Madrid very much changed their mentality. They looked like they were dead set on drawing the game only. They left Correa up front. They drew Griezmann back into midfield. They played a back five. And so there are many pundits and Celtic fan sites saying that Rodgers did the right thing by playing very conservatively in that last 15 minutes down against 10 men. But I really wish we'd just gone for it. It wouldn't have actually been a big commitment, taking off one of our back five, probably most likely Greg Taylor, moving across Scales to play left back, or going with the back three, shoving Alistair Johnson into midfield, and then throwing on an extra striker such as O to support Maeda. We already had James Forrest on, which I was rather disappointed with when he came on to replace Kyogo. I thought possibly the extra speed of Yang or the finishing skills of O and even also the way of using O as a target man and playing Kyogo, Maeda off of him, or even potentially having thrown on Forrest. We could have used Forrest as an inside forward and um, taken off Maeda, as Maeda, like Kyogo, was rather tired going into the last 15-20 minutes of the game. However, Rodgers made his decision. He lives and dies by his, metaphorically, dies by those decisions. And there was great credit in getting 1 point off Atletico Madrid. It also, to the best of my knowledge, gained Celtic something like £900,000 of prize money, which is rather ridiculous for drawing one game of football. However, it'll go a long way to increase the transfer kitty in the winter, and also to help fund extended contracts for players such as Liam Scales, Hart, and potentially even increasing CCV's contract if he's agreeable to staying at Celtic a wee bit longer. Also in the news, Brendan Rodgers has confirmed that Reo Hatate's injury is a significant one, likely to be out for a few weeks. He wasn't any more specific, but I think from his comments, we're looking at Reo Hatate being out until the end of the next international break, which would see him coming back potentially for the Motherwell game on the 25th of November or the Lazio game on the 28th of November. That would mean he'll miss the Saturday's game against Hibs, and then midweek against St Mirren, then Ross County, Atletico Madrid, and then Aberdeen, which then leads into the next international break. I think we're going to need to look at a replacement for Reo Hatate, and personally, I think I actually might well go for Tomoki Iwata, moving Callum McGregor up into Reo Hatate's place in a more advanced role. Other options obviously being continuing with the Paulo Bernardo experiment, Odin Thiago home, or going back to David Turnbull. Personally, I would go with Tomoki Iwata, pushing McGregor forward, although I think equally Bernardo would be a good option. I think he did well enough against Atletico Madrid to be the primary candidate to directly replace Hatate. Odin Thiago home got more of the starting time early in the season. Didn't really impress that much. Looked tidy enough, but didn't really set the heather on fire. And so I think probably Rodgers will go for Bernardo, although I would prefer Iwata. And so I have popped in the community section a poll just to see what the David67 audience would favour, with the options of being Bernardo, Home, Iwata, or Turnbull to replace Hatate against Hibs and over the next few weeks. Moving on to the Hibs match on Saturday. Celtic have a good record against Hibs. In the last 10 games, we've got 6 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss, with the loss actually being the last time we played Hibs at the end of last season. We lost that night 4-2, a rather poorly organised game. I think Ange Postecoglou and the players' minds were more on winning the cup final, and Postecoglou's mind possibly starting to think about taking over at Spurs, which of course he did, leaving us at the end of last season. It was also a game in which Dyson Maeda managed to get himself sent off rather stupidly. And so it was a bit of a catastrophe all around. However, better news is just over a year ago in the corresponding fixture in mid-October, Celtic beat Hibs 6-1. It was a game remarkable for James Forrest scoring a hat-trick, which took him to 100 goals for Celtic. Also a couple of goals for Giamakis, and also final goal that day for Dyson Maeda. So Hibs actually go into this game on a pretty good run of form, couple of wins, 3 draws and 1 loss in their last 6. And so Hibs actually do go into the game with quite a lot of good form. Recent fighting back against Hearts result as well to get to 2-2. And so not a team for us to take lightly. Other little bit of odd trivia is that our South Korean centre forward O has played twice against Hibs and scored on both occasions. And so obviously is a lucky team for O. Now, I think Celtic will win comfortably against Hibs, however, at the weekend. My prediction would be 3-1. Celtic do seem to struggle to keep clean sheets these days. In terms of the predicted team, I think most likely Rodgers will go with the same starting 11 as against Madrid, except substituting Paulo Bernardo for Reo Hatate, so going with Hart, Johnston, CCV, Scales, Taylor, Paulo Bernardo, McGregor and Matt O'Reilly, and then up front Dyson Maeda, Kyogo and Lewis Palmer. Quite a few Celtic pundit sites and fan sites are suggesting that this might be a chance for Brendan Rodgers to rest a few of the first team first choices, such as Kyogo, CCV, Matt O'Reilly, Dyson Maeda, and bring in some of the backup players to give them match time in their legs, as it's highly likely over the next few months with injuries, international call-ups, suspensions, etc. We are going to need our full squad, or much of our full squad. Some suggestions that Celtic might well go with Lagerbielke and Nat Phillips in central defence, or maybe using Lagerbielke as our right back, as he was very able to do when he played in Swedish football. Some folks suggesting, given the fact that Kyogo and Dyson Maeda ended the game against Madrid rather tired, whether we might start with O up front and Forrest or Yang, replacing Maeda with Palma on the other side. I think it would be interesting to see players such as Lagerbielke, Phillips, Iwata, Yang, all getting a start. Obviously, we then would have Kyogo, Maeda, one of CCV or Scales on the bench, and Home, etc. on the bench also to come on later in the game if things weren't going so well against Hibs. One of the things Celtic do need to look out for is that from early January through to mid-February, there will be the Asian Cup, which, fitness permitting and selections going as expected, we're going to be missing Maeda, Kyogo, Reo Hatate and O for that period definitely, with a possibility of also Yang and Kwon being called up by South Korea. And although it's the Asian Cup, Australia also participate in that, and so Tilio might well be called up by Australia as he was in their squad prior to injury. even saw a rather odd rumour that Kobayashi was also in the mix-up for the Asian Cup early next year. So clearly Celtic do need to look at maximising their squad options, maybe looking at bringing in a player like Reo Hatate from the B team. Also, especially if both Kyogo and O are away playing for their international teams for much of January and half of February. So, just about finishes things for today. Do remember to click the subscribe button if not already a subscriber. Do try and pass on the channel details to other Celtic fans. Have a wee go at the poll and the trivia question in the community section. All things being equal, I'll do an early Saturday morning video responding to any overnight news and any further chat and rumours from Celtic fan sites and the press. And so until tomorrow, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, goodbye, and hail, hail.